That afternoon, I was sitting in the living room drinking tea, still holding a partially read magazine. Sunlight streamed through the window and warmed the floor, and I was in a pretty good mood, but before I could finish reading the article, the doorbell rang with a ding-dong, ding-dong. I set down what I was holding, stood up, and went to open the door, wondering who might come at this hour. When I opened it, standing outside was David, who was Ethan's former colleague. We used to have dinner together a few times when our families still kept in touch, but in the past 2 years, we hadn't been in contact much at all. David stood at the door with an expression that looked a little awkward. He rubbed his hands together and said, "Little sister-in-law, is it convenient to come in and sit for a while? I have something to tell you." I whispered to myself, David doesn't look like he's here just to chat. Could something have happened? But I still stepped aside to let him in, walking toward the living room while saying, "David, please have a seat. I'll pour you a cup of tea." David, after sitting down on the couch, I handed the brewed tea to him. He took the teacup but did not drink. He cupped the cup and fell silent for a while. As if he was pondering how to begin, I sat opposite him, watching his hesitant way of speaking, and my confusion grew heavier. So I asked, "David, what exactly brings you to see me today? If there is anything you need help with, just say it." David, my heart gave a jolt and I had a bad premonition, but I still nodded and said, "David, you speak, I can take it." David smoothed his lips and spoke, "Sister-in-law, actually you and Ethan were already divorced 3 years ago." Span ID equals 0. When these words came out, the teacup in my hand almost slipped. The tea sloshed a little, splashing onto the back of my hand. But I didn't feel it burn. I stared at David, not daring to believe my ears, said, "David bro, what do you mean by this? Ethan and I were happily married. How did you get divorced? Are you sure you're not mistaken?" David sighed, and said, "Little sister-in-law, I'm not mistaken. This thing is something Ethan blurted out to me when we had a drink a while ago. He said he had already hired a lawyer to file for your divorce 3 years ago, but he never told you. And he asked those of us who know not to mention it to you." My mind goes blank. 3 years ago, why do I have no memory at all? At that time, Ethan said we needed to go handle some formalities, claiming the company required it. I didn't think much of it and signed a bunch of documents as he said. Now that I think about it, those documents were probably the divorce agreement. I barely held back the fire in my heart, and my voice trembled as I asked, "Then why didn't he tell me? What does he think I am?" David sighed again, then continued, "There's one more thing I have to tell you as well. Ethan last month already had a wedding ceremony with a woman named Lily, the assistant he had been telling us about." Lily, I've heard that name before. People kept telling me that Ethan was close with his assistant. I even argued with Ethan a few times, but he always said it was just a work relationship and to stop overthinking. Now it seems they were together all along. Even secretly getting a divorce and then marrying that woman. I could feel a surge of anger from the soles of my feet straight to the top of my head, my hands tightly clenched into fists, nails almost digging into the flesh. But then I reminded myself that it wasn't worth getting upset with someone like him. I let out a cold laugh, stood up, and said to David, "David, thank you for telling me all this. Don't worry, I'm fine." David looked at my reaction with a bit of worry and said, "Little sister, don't keep it to yourself. If you want to talk to someone, you can call me anytime." I nodded and said, "I understand, David, it's getting late, and I still have a few things to take care of, so I won't stay with you." David also stood up and wanted to say something else, but seeing my resolute attitude, he finally only patted my shoulder and turned away. "David, Ethan." I didn't think about it any longer and immediately returned to the room, opened the suitcase, and started packing. I want to leave here, to leave this place full of lies. I had already contacted friends abroad earlier, originally planning to wait a while before going out to relax. But now it seems that it's time to leave right away. I stuffed some important documents and a few frequently worn clothes into a box, and I didn't bother with the rest of the things either, since they weren't worth much anyway. After packing my luggage, I called my driver and told him to come downstairs to pick me up in half an hour to take me to the airport. Hanging up the phone, I took one last look at the house without the slightest hesitation, turned around, and walked out with my suitcase. When we got downstairs, The driver was already waiting. I put the suitcases in the trunk, then got into the car and said to the driver, "To the airport, hurry." The driver saw that I wasn't looking well and didn't press me for questions much. He nodded and started the car. All the way, I watched the scenery rushing by outside the window. I wasn't sad, only a sense of relief. I've been with Ethan for so many years. For him I gave up my career and devoted myself to taking care of the home, but he treated me this way. Now, it's all over, and I can restart my life. About an hour later, we arrived at the airport. I paid the fare, carried my suitcase, and headed straight for the private jet tarmac. I had already booked a private jet to fly abroad this afternoon. At first I hesitated about postponing, but now it seems that decision was right. When I reached the tarmac, the plane was ready. The staff helped move my suitcase onto the plane. I smiled at them and said, "Thank you," and then I boarded, sitting on the plane, looking out the window as the airport grew smaller and finally became a tiny speck. I took a deep breath. "Ethan, do you think that by treating me this way I will fall apart? Just wait, I will make you regret it." 3 days later, when you open the financial news, you will know who I am and how capable I truly am. The plane gradually ascends, flying toward foreign skies. I lean back in my seat, close my eyes, and begin to imagine my new life abroad. I know the path ahead might not be easy, but I am confident I can carve out a space of my own. Just boarded the private jet. I'm about to fasten my seatbelt when I hear someone behind me calling my name. "Emily, is that you?" I turn around and see that it is Sophia. Sophia was a business partner I knew before I gave up chasing my career. At that time we worked on several big projects together, and the collaboration was very enjoyable. Later, to retire Ethan from the family, I started contacting her less. Never expected to meet her here. Sophia swiftly walks over, her face full of surprise. She pats my arm and says, "It's really you, Emily. I thought I was seeing things. Where are you headed?" I stood up with a smile and pulled Sophia over to sit in the empty seat beside me, saying, "Sophia, what a coincidence. You're on this flight too." "I'm going abroad for a while." Sophia nodded, saying, "Isn't that right? I'm going abroad to discuss a collaboration." "Why did you suddenly think of going abroad? You didn't mention it before." Speaking of this matter, my smile faded a bit, but I spoke calmly. "Hey, something happened at home. I'm going out to clear my mind and take the opportunity to look at markets abroad. Maybe I can start a new business there." "Sophia, how sharp you are. Just by looking at me, you know it's definitely not a little thing." She leaned in a bit, lowering her voice and asked, "Emily, is it about Ethan? A while ago I heard that he has gotten very close to his assistant. There hasn't been any trouble lately, right?" My heart warmed somehow. I didn't expect that after so long without contact, Sophia would still care about me this much. I sighed and said, "Sophia, not to hide it. I only found out today that 3 years ago Ethan secretly filed for divorce from me, and last month he even had a wedding with that assistant named Lily." Sophia's eyes widened at once. She clapped her hands on her thigh and said, "Is there such a thing, Ethan? This is too shameless. Back then you paused your promising career for him, and now he's behind the scenes doing such filthy things." I forced a wry smile and said, "It's in the past. There's no point in dwelling on it now. I just want to leave that place and start over." Sophia grasped my hand and said in a firm tone, "Emily, you're thinking this way for a reason. With your abilities, back when you were in business you were amazing. If you leave him, you'll surely be better off. If you ever need help abroad, just tell me. I have a few acquaintances overseas who might be able to help." That remark made me feel more at ease. I nodded and said, "Thank you, Sophia. If I really need help, I won't be polite with you. By the way, what cooperation are you negotiating abroad this time?" As soon as work was mentioned, Sophia's energy lifted. She told me about the clothing import-export project they were negotiating this time, and said that the overseas clothing market looks promising now, and asked if I'd be interested in taking a look together. Listening to Sophia, my own plans started to stir. I had dealt in clothing business before and was quite familiar with the industry. If I could do this overseas again, I might really make some headway. I told Sophia that once I've settled abroad, I'll go with her to inspect the market. As we chatted, A flight attendant came over to remind us that the plane was about to take off and to fasten our seatbelts. The two of us quickly sat down and buckled up. The plane slowly glides toward the runway, then suddenly accelerates, shooting straight toward the sky. I look at the clouds outside the window, and my heart no longer feels empty as before. Sophia, the encouragement and support of this old friend, make me more confident about the life ahead. Sophia leaned back in her seat and talked with me about the days when we worked hard together in the past, saying that during that time, the two of us stayed up for several consecutive nights to discuss a project, and when we finally won the project, we hugged each other and cried with excitement. Thinking back now, although it was tiring then, it was very fulfilling and very happy. Listening to Sophia, I also recalled the old days. Back then I was confident, capable, full of drive. Later, for Ethan, I hid all of it and devoted myself entirely to the family, but in the end I ended up in this situation. But now it's all right, I can reclaim my former self. After more than an hour or so had passed, the flight attendants started bringing us drinks and snacks. I ordered a cup of juice, and Sophia ordered a cup of coffee. While we were nibbling on the snacks, we continued chatting. Sophia told me a lot of precautions about foreign business scenes and even left me the contact information of several friends she knew overseas, so that I could contact them once I arrived. I carefully saved the contact information in my phone, and said to Sophia, "Sophia, thank you so much, you've helped me so much." Sophia waved her hand and said, "What are you being polite to me for? We're old sisters, helping each other is only right. Besides, I'm waiting to work with you. And we'll have a big collaboration together." I smiled and said, "Sure, we can definitely accomplish great things together." Unknowingly, a few hours had passed, and the plane was about to reach its destination. The flight attendants began to remind us that the plane would land soon and asked us to get prepared. Sophia and I quickly tidied our things and waited for the plane to land. The plane landed smoothly on the airport runway, then slowly taxied toward the tarmac. After the plane came to a stop, we unbuckled our seatbelts, took our luggage, and got off the plane together. Leaving the airport terminal, Sophia said goodbye to me, telling me she needed to go meet the partner first and would contact me once she was done. I said to Sophia, "Bon voyage." Then carried my luggage and walked toward outside the airport. I stood at the airport exit, watching the constant stream of people, my heart full of anticipation. The air abroad seemed different from that at home. Everything here was fresh and full of opportunities. I knew my new life had officially begun from this moment. I pulled out my phone and called Jason, who I had previously been in touch with, to tell him that I had arrived and for him to come pick me up. I hung up the phone and found a shady place to wait. Jason, after a while, a black car stopped in front of me. The window rolled down, revealing Jason's face. Jason smiled at me and said, "Ms. Lee, you finally arrived. I've been waiting for you for a while." I nodded with a smile and said, "Sorry to have kept you waiting. Let's go to the place we're staying first." Jason hurriedly got off the car, helped me load the luggage into the trunk, then opened the car door and let me get in. I sat in the car, watching the foreign scenery flash by the window, and in my heart I murmured, "Ethan, you wait. It won't be long before I make you understand how wrong the decision was to give up on me." The car smoothly drove along the streets abroad. The architectural styles along the road were completely different from those at home. Spiky roofs, colorful walls, and abundant greenery everywhere. I was almost overwhelmed by what I saw. Jason, while driving, occasionally told me about the roadside attractions, saying this was a famous business street here, that was a square popular with tourists. And the atmosphere was relaxed. We walked for more than half an hour, and the car stopped in front of a 2-story small villa. This house was previously rented in advance by Jason. The surroundings were very quiet, and the yard had many flowers, which immediately lifted one's spirits. Jason first get off the car, help me open the door, then carry the suitcase down. He said, "Director Lee, this is the house we rented for you. See if you're satisfied. I've already checked the furniture and appliances inside. They all work. Daily necessities are all bought. You can move in directly." I walked into the yard, touched the roses blooming beside me, and said with a smile, "Not bad, this place is quite nice, quiet and comfortable. Thanks for your hard work, it's proper, General Manager Lee, Jason said with a smile. Then lugged the suitcase and followed me into the house. The house is decorated in a very warm and inviting way. The living room has a soft sofa and a big TV, the kitchen is clean and tidy. And the bed in the bedroom looks particularly comfortable. I set down my bag, sat on the sofa, and exhaled a long breath. The fatigue from this journey seemed to fade a lot. Jason poured me a cup of warm water, handed it to me, and said, "President Lee, you should rest for a while and drink some water. Once you've recovered, we'll discuss the next steps." I took the cup, took a sip, and said, "No need to rest, I'm still energized, let's talk now. You mentioned before that you contacted a few clothing businesses locally, right?" "Yes." Jason hurriedly pulled out a tablet, opened the document inside. "I've organized information on 3 fairly reliable merchants. They're all in the clothing wholesale business, have their own factories, and have a good local reputation. I've also set up times with them. We can visit their factories for an inspection the day after tomorrow in the morning." I leaned in and looked at the information on the tablet, which detailed each merchant's name, factory address, main types of clothing they operate, and customer reviews. I nodded as I read, and said, "You've been very thorough, these details are very useful, so among these 3, which one should we focus on first?" Jason thought for a moment and said, "I think we should first focus on the first one, Sunshine Apparel. They mainly do women's fashion, with a style quite similar to what you used to do in China, and their factory scale is large with strong production capacity. If we can work with them, supply should be no problem. As for the other 2, one makes sportswear and the other children's wear. We can take a look at them as well to get a better sense of the market." I nodded in agreement and said, "All right, let's proceed as you suggested. When we go for the site visit the day after tomorrow, we'll their fabric quality, production processes, and price system. You should prepare a draft of our cooperation letter of intent as well. If the negotiations go smoothly, we'll first reach a preliminary cooperation agreement with them." "Okay, I'll have the cooperation letter of intent ready tomorrow," Jason quickly noted. "By the way, Mr. Lee, Sophia previously left you the contact details for a few foreign acquaintances. Should I reach out to them first? They might be able to introduce us to some resources." I slapped my head, almost forgetting this matter. Sophia, with her wide network, surely knows reliable people. I said, "If you want to fight, pick 2 people related to the fashion industry, contact them first, say I'm Sophia's friend, and would like to invite them to a meal to chat about the industry, and see if they can give us some pointers." "Understood, I'll contact them right away," Jason said, about to stand up. I called him and said, "Don't worry, there's one more thing. We do business abroad, so we need an office space. We can't keep discussing this at home. You go take a look tomorrow. Find something closer to where we live, a convenient office building with easy transportation, rent a small office, not too big, just enough to accommodate 3 or 4 people. So we can set up shop first." "Okay, tomorrow morning I'll go to look at the office building, and in the afternoon I'll prepare a letter of intent for cooperation. Then contact the person Sophia introduced." Jason noted each of these things in his notebook, afraid of missing any. I watched his serious look and felt quite reassured in my heart. Jason has been with me for several years. When I was pursuing my career in the country, he was especially capable, meticulous, and reliable. This time I brought him over, truly choosing the right person. "By the way, Mr. Lee," Jason suddenly remembered something. "There's another thing I want to mention. I heard from some local friends that there will be a clothing trade fair here next month. Many domestic and international clothing businesses will participate, and quite a few buyers will come as well. Should we sign up to join? Maybe we can find more cooperation opportunities, clothing exhibition and sale." My eyes lit up. This is a great opportunity. Exhibitions are crowded. Not only can we contact merchants, but we can also learn the latest fashion trends, which will be very helpful in opening up our market. I hurriedly said, "We must participate. You go and find out the registration process and fees. We must sign up. When the time comes, we can prepare some samples to display at the expo, so more people will know about us." "All right, I'll ask tomorrow," Jason said with an excited look on his face. That way, our upcoming schedule will be full. Tomorrow I'll look for an office building, prepare materials, contact acquaintances. The day after, visit the factory, then have a meal with the person Sophia introduced us to, and prepare samples and booth setup for the exhibition, taking it step by step. There shouldn't be any problem. I nod and say, the approach is clear, we'll proceed at this pace, but don't work yourself too hard. If you can't handle it, tell me and we can hire an assistant. Thanks to General Manager Lee for his concern. I can handle it, Jason said with a smile. Now is the time to lay the foundation. It's okay to be a bit tired. Once we build up our business, it will be fine. After talking about these things, it was getting darker outside. Jason said that his place wasn't far from here, so he would head back first and come over again tomorrow morning. I walked him to the door, reminded him to be careful on the way, and then I closed the door. The room was left with only me. I walked to the window and looked at the night view outside. The street lamps emitted a soft light, and occasionally a few cars passed by. Everything was so quiet. I took out my phone and sent a message to Sophia, telling her that I had settled in, and I mentioned going to inspect a clothing factory and attend the sales expo, thanking her for her help earlier. Not long after, Sophia got back to me, saying she was happy for me, and that if the trade show needed help, she could come over to lend me a hand. I read the message, feeling warm inside. I opened the calendar in my phone again, counted the days. From today to when Ethan would see the financial news, it would only be 3 days. I want to see what his reaction will be when he finds out I'm abroad. The next few days, some were busy. I needed to rest well and gather my energy to new challenges. After washing up, I lay in bed and fell asleep soon after. And this was the most peaceful sleep I'd had in days. Early the next morning, I was awakened by the chirping of birds in the yard. When I opened my eyes, the sun outside the window was already quite high, and sunlight streamed through the gaps in the blinds, casting patches of light on the floor. I stretched, sat up in bed, and felt my whole body filled with strength. The fatigue from yesterday had completely vanished. After washing up, I went to the kitchen to cook some porridge and fried 2 eggs, just a simple breakfast. I had just set down the bowls when I heard the doorbell. No need to guess who it was. Jason came. I opened the door and sure enough, Jason was standing at the door with a file bag in his hand, smiling as he said, "Ms. Lee, good morning. I just went to a nearby breakfast shop and bought some buns. Do you want to have a bit more?" I shook my head with a smile and said, "No need. I've just eaten porridge and eggs. I'm full. Have you eaten? If not, you can have a bit here." "I've eaten, Ms. Lee," Jason said as he walked into the house and placed the file bag on the coffee table. "These are the office building details yesterday. I picked 3 locations with relatively good facilities. You can see which one suits you." I picked up the file bag and took out the documents inside to browse through. It not only listed the addresses, sizes, and rents of the office buildings, but also contained on-site photos. The pros and cons of each building were clearly marked. After taking a look around, I pointed to one office building near a commercial street and said, "This one is good, close to the commercial street, convenient for meeting clients in the future. And the size is appropriate, the rent is within our budget. Let's go with this." "Okay, then I'll go today to sign the contract with them. And by the way, bring back the office keys," Jason quickly noted. "By the way, Mr. Lee, yesterday I contacted Sophia about the person she introduced for the clothing trade, Daniel. He said he's free tonight and would like to invite you to dinner to chat about the industry." I nodded and said, "Okay, I'll go with you this evening. You send me the time and place on my phone, and I'll prepare in advance." "Okay, I'll send it to you in a moment," Jason replied. "I'll go handle the office building stuff now and report back to you at noon." "Go ahead, be careful on the way," I urged. Span ID = 0. Jason left. I tidied up the house briefly, then took out the tablet and began researching the latest trends in the local clothing market. After all, I've been away from this industry for several years, so I need to understand the current state of things to better carry out my work. On the other side, domestically, Ethan, at this moment, was sitting in his office, feeling uneasy. He came home last night and found the place empty. Many of my usual things were gone, which made him anxious. He went to the house we used to live in again this morning. Still no one there, and he couldn't reach anyone by phone, which deepened his suspicions. He sat in the chair, fingers continuously tapping the table, thinking, where did she really go? How did she disappear so suddenly? Could it be that she knows something? Thinking of this, he quickly picked up his phone and called Peter. Peter is a friend both he and I know, we used to eat together often. He thought Peter might know my news. The line was connected quickly, and Peter's voice came from the phone. Hey, Larolyn, what made you think to call me? Ethan hurriedly said, Old Wang. I want to ask you something. Have you seen Emily recently? I've been looking for her these days, but I can't find her anywhere, and I can't reach her by phone. Peter, upon listening, understood immediately that Ethan probably still didn't know I already knew about the divorce. He hesitated for a moment and said, Old Lynn, what exactly happened with you and Emily? A while ago I heard from David that you two divorced 3 years ago, and you even married your assistant. Ethan didn't expect that Peter knew about this either. He froze for a moment and hurriedly said, Old Wang, don't listen to David nonsense. That's all a misunderstanding. Emily and I are fine. How could we be divorced? Peter sneered and said, a misunderstanding. David told me everything. You told him yourself, and even told him not to tell you. Larolyn, what you did here is not decent at all. Emily gave up such a good career for you. How could you treat her like this? Ethan was left speechless by Peter's words. He paused and asked again, then do you know where Emily went? I've been looking for her these days but can't find her. I'm quite worried, Peter said. I haven't seen her for several days either, but a few days ago I heard Sophia say that Emily seemed to want to go abroad, saying she wanted to take a break, and perhaps see if she could do some business there. What, you don't know, going abroad? Ethan said in surprise. He didn't expect I would suddenly go abroad. When did she go? Which country did she go to? Peter said, I don't know exactly when she went or which country. Sophia just mentioned it to me. Old Lynn, I advise you not to look for her anymore. Since she chose to leave, there must be a reason. If you still have a shred of conscience, don't bother her again. Ethan wanted to say more, but Peter had already hung up the phone. He held the phone, stunned in place, puzzled and uneasy. How could I suddenly go abroad and want to do business overseas? Didn't she stop doing the clothing business a long time ago? The more he thought about it, the more something felt off. As if something was beyond his control, he sat in the chair, his mind in a mess, with no heart to work. He took out his phone and called Lily again, hoping to tell her about this. The phone rang for a while before it connected, and Lily's voice carried a hint of impatience. Hello, honey, what's up? I'm out shopping with a friend. Ethan frowned and said, don't wander around. Come back quickly. I have something to tell you. Lily, when she heard his tone was off, she had no choice but to say, all right, I'll go back now. Hanging up the phone, Ethan leaned back in his chair, still not feeling settled. He always felt that this trip abroad for me wouldn't be so simple, but he couldn't figure out what I really wanted to do, so he could only wait for Lily to come back and discuss it with her. And at this moment, I still don't know that Ethan is anxious about my destination. I finished reviewing the local clothing market information, then started preparing the content for my meeting with Daniel in the evening. I know this meeting is very important. Perhaps I can obtain a lot of useful resources from Daniel, which will be very helpful for us to develop the business next. At noon, Jason came back and reported that the office contract had been signed, the keys were obtained, and he also contacted the cleaning staff. Tomorrow they will clean the office, buy some office furniture, and it can be officially used next week. I nodded in satisfaction and said, well done, you've worked hard. Tonight we'll meet with Daniel and have a good talk with him, to strive for some cooperative intentions. Jason nodded and said, don't worry, Mr. Lee, I've already read our situation. Tonight, let's talk with Daniel properly. We'll definitely be able to do it. In the afternoon, I dug out the clothes I planned to wear tonight and dressed a little. After all, I'm meeting an important client, so appearance is still very important. Time passed quickly, and night fell in the blink of an eye. I and Jason arrived at the agreed restaurant 10 minutes early, found a quiet private room, and sat down. Not long after, Daniel arrived. Daniel looks to be in his 50s, wearing a well-fitted suit and treating people with warmth. As soon as he enters the private room, he smiles and extends his hand, saying, "This is Mr. Lee, right? Sophia has told me about you for a long time. You're very capable in the clothing industry. And it's finally seeing you in person today." I quickly stood up, shook hands with him, and said, "Daniel, you flatter me. I'll need your guidance in the future." After sitting down, the waiter brought over the menu. Daniel let me order first. I declined a bit, and let him choose a few local specialties. When the dishes arrived, we ate while chatting. Daniel told me a lot about the local clothing market and shared some of his experiences in textile trade. I also told him our upcoming plans. That we wanted to start with women's fashion to open up the local market. Daniel listened, nodded, and said, "Mr. Lee, your idea is very clear. The demand for women's fashion in the local market is indeed large, but competition is fierce. I have a few good distribution channels on hand. If you don't mind, we could collaborate and try it. I can help push your products into these channels, and we can achieve a win-win." Hearing this, I was very pleased. This is exactly what I wanted. I hurried to say, "That would be wonderful. Daniel, if we could work together, that would be really great." Daniel smiled and said, "All of us were introduced by friends. Helping each other is only natural. Once your side's products are ready, we'll discuss the details of the cooperation." That evening we talked very happily, not only reaching a preliminary cooperation intention, but also getting a lot of useful information from Daniel. When we were leaving, Daniel also told me that if I encountered any difficulties, I could contact him anytime. On the way back, Jason said excitedly, "President Lee, today went incredibly smoothly. I didn't expect Daniel to be so straightforward and willing to cooperate with us." I smiled and said, "We should thank Sophia. Without her introduction, we wouldn't have easily established connections with Daniel. Next, we must make the most of our time and settle the product matters, so we can start doing business as soon as possible." Back home, after brushing my teeth, I lying on the bed, my heart full of anticipation. I know our career has taken its first step, and as long as we work hard, it will surely get better and better. And on that side, Ethan is probably anxious about where I'll go. I wonder what expression he'll wear when he sees the financial news 3 days later. The day after I met Daniel in person, the sky was just starting to brighten when I woke up. Thinking about the cooperation intention we reached with Daniel yesterday, my heart was so excited that I couldn't sleep anymore. I simply got up to wash up and made up my mind to head out early to rendezvous with Jason, and together we would visit the factory of Sunshine Apparel for an inspection. I had a simple breakfast and just finished tidying up, and Jason arrived. He was carrying a briefcase with a cooperation letter of intent and a notebook inside, his face full of determination. And he said, "President Lee, everything is ready. Shall we go to the factory now?" "Let's go now." I nodded, and got into the car with Jason. Sunshine Apparel factory is not too far from where we live. By car it's about an hour. On the way, Jason confirmed with me the key points for today's inspection, listing them one by one from fabric quality, manufacturing process, to delivery lead times and pricing system, for fear of missing anything. I looked at his serious expression and felt more assured, and said, "You've thought it through carefully. When we arrive at the factory later, we'll do it this way. If anything is unclear, just ask the person in charge directly and get it clarified." About an hour later, we arrived at the Sunny Apparel factory. There were dedicated reception staff at the gate waiting for us, and when they saw our car, they hurried forward, smiling. "Are you Mr. Lee and Jason? Eric has already been waiting inside. Please follow me." Following the receptionist into the factory, I couldn't help looking around. The factory environment is very tidy. The machinery and equipment look new, the workers are working in an orderly manner, and the entire production process seems to be well regulated. Walking into the office building's conference room, a middle-aged man wearing a blue work uniform who looked very capable stood up, smiled, extended his hand and said, "Mr. Lee. Welcome, welcome. I'm the factory director here, Jong Jun. I've been looking forward to your arrival." I hurried to shake hands with him and said, "Eric, sorry to trouble you. This time I've come to trouble you a bit more. there's no need for formalities, we all want to cooperate well, Eric said with a smile, warmly inviting us to sit down, and had the staff pour us tea. After we sat down, Eric first gave us an introduction to the factory, detailing its founding time, production scale, product types, and qualifications. He also took out some fabric samples and finished garments to show us, saying, "Mr. Lee, please take a look at our fabrics. They are all made with high-quality materials, breathable and comfortable to wear, and the workmanship meets high standards. You can rest assured." I picked up a fabric sample and touched it. It really felt soft and the texture was excellent. I flipped through the finished garments again. The stitches were neat, with no loose threads. And the details were well done. I nodded in satisfaction and said, "Eric, your product quality is indeed good, just as I expected." Hearing me say that, Eric's smile grew even wider. He said, "As long as Mr. Lee is satisfied, our factory has always focused on product quality. After all, in the clothing business, quality is fundamental." Next, we began discussing the specifics of cooperation. I told Eric our needs, including the styles, colors, sizes of the clothes, and the quantity for the first order. Eric listened attentively, occasionally jotting notes in his notebook. And whenever something was unclear, he promptly confirmed with me. When talking about price, Eric thought for a moment and said, "Mr. Lee, since you are genuinely interested in cooperating with us and the first order volume is substantial, I'll give you a favorable price, 5 percentage points below the market. How does that sound?" I counted in my heart that this price is indeed very favorable, even lower than I expected. I glanced at Jason, and I could tell from his eyes that he approved as well. I smiled and said, "Eric, this price is very reasonable." "I agree. What about the delivery cycle?" "We want to receive the first batch of goods as soon as possible," Eric said. "Rest assured, as long as we sign the contract and pay the deposit, we will immediately arrange production and guarantee that the goods will be delivered to you within 15 days, and we will absolutely not delay your sales." A 15-day delivery period, even faster than I expected, made me even happier. I said, "Okay, Eric, then let's set it like this. I'll have Jason bring out the letter of intent for cooperation. And can we sign the contract today?" "No problem," Eric replied cheerfully. Jason hurriedly took the letter of cooperation from his briefcase and handed it to Eric. Eric read it carefully, and after confirming there were no issues, he picked up a pen, signed the contract, and affixed the factory seal. I also signed the contract, then swapped copies with Eric. After signing the contract, Eric held my hand and said, "General Manager Lee, pleasure working with you. From now on we are partners. If anything comes up, contact me at any time and I will do my best to cooperate." "Pleasure working with you," I replied with a smile. From now on, please don't trouble Eric too much. After signing the contract, Eric also took us on a tour of the factory's production workshop. The workers were busy cutting, sewing, and ironing. At every stage there was a dedicated person responsible for inspection to ensure product quality. Seeing this scene, I felt even more confident about this cooperation. When leaving the factory, it was already noon. Eric didn't want to impose, saying, "Eric, no need to trouble, we have other matters to handle. If there's a chance next time, we can eat together then." Eric also didn't press the issue, replying, "All right, Mr. Lee, drive safely on your way back. If anything comes up, call me anytime." Getting into the car, Jason said excitedly, "Mr. Lee, it went smoothly. I didn't expect we would sign the contract so quickly, and the price and delivery timeline are so favorable." I smiled and said, "Yeah, Eric is a straightforward guy. It's reassuring to work with him. Next, we must hurry to arrange the deposit. Then contact Daniel and tell him the news of our order so he can prepare the sales channels in advance. When the goods arrive, they can go on shelves immediately." "Okay, I will contact the finance department now to arrange the payment of the deposit. And I'll touch base with Daniel in the afternoon," Jason said hastily. Back at the place where we live, Jason sprang into action without stopping. He first called the domestic finance team to arrange for the deposit to be transferred to the Sunshine Apparel account as soon as possible. Then called Daniel to tell him that we had already signed a contract with Sunshine Apparel, and that the first batch of orders would arrive within 15 days. Daniel was also very pleased to hear the news and said, "Wonderful, General Manager Lee, I will contact my sales channels right away to get them ready in advance. Once your goods arrive, we can start selling immediately and ensure you have strong sales." Hanging up the phone, Jason reported the situation to me, saying, "President Lee, the finance department has already arranged it, and the deposit will be received tomorrow." Daniel also said he will contact the sales channels in advance to make preparations. I nodded and said, "Okay, not bad. By the way, how's the office area? Have the cleaners finished?" I called the cleaning staff in the morning. They said they can finish cleaning today before noon. And in the afternoon I'll go buy office furniture, and we'll try to have the office set up by tomorrow, then we can officially start working in the office next week. Jason said, "Fine, as long as you arrange it." I said, "Thanks for your hard work today. Let's have a good lunch at noon to celebrate our first business deal." "Sure," Jason cheerfully agreed. At noon, Jason and I found a locally famous Chinese restaurant, ordered a few dishes, and also a bottle of red wine. While eating, we continued talking about the upcoming plans, including office layout, staffing, and preparations for participating in next month's clothing fair. Jason said, "Mr. Lee, after our office is set up, shouldn't we hire 2 people, one to handle sales, one for logistics, so you can also be more relaxed?" I thought for a moment and said, "You're right, we do need to recruit 2 people, but the hiring isn't urgent. Once the office is set up, let's focus on the first batch of orders. After the goods arrive and we start selling, we can take our time with recruitment." "Okay, I'm listening to you," Jason said. After dinner, we returned to where we were staying. Jason then hurried off to buy office furniture again, while I was at home organizing the materials from the collaboration with Sunshine Apparel, sorting and saving all related documents in a folder. After organizing the materials, I sat on the sofa, sipping tea, feeling a strong sense of achievement. This is my first business deal negotiated abroad. Though it's only a beginning, it gives me hope. I believe that as long as we keep working hard, the next business ventures will get better and our career will flourish more and more. In the evening, Jason came back and reported that the office furniture had been purchased, it would be delivered to the office tomorrow, and after it's set up, we can officially start working next week. I nodded with satisfaction and told him to go home and get some rest sooner. After all, today was a long day and I'm tired. After Jason left, I finished washing up, lay in bed, and browsed the contract we signed with Sunshine Apparel on my phone. I felt particularly reassured. I know my career abroad has officially started, and there are still many things to do next, but I'm confident that I can make this venture a success and make those who looked down on me, especially Ethan, take a good look at me. I remembered there are only 2 days left before the financial news would report on our matter. I wonder what Ethan will think after seeing it, surprise or regret. Whatever the reaction, it doesn't concern me anymore. I just want to focus on my career and live a good life. In the next few days, Jason and I were both setting up the office and preparing for follow-up work. The office furniture was delivered quickly. Jason, along with workers, arranged the furniture and bought some greenery and decorations to place in the office, making the whole office feel warm and professional. On Friday, the office was finally set up. Jason and I went to take a look together, and as I looked at the brand new desks, the comfortable sofa, and the vibrant greens on the windowsill, I felt especially happy and said, nice. This really looks like a proper place to do business. Next week we'll be able to work here officially." Jason also smiled and said, "Yes, General Manager Lee, with an office, it's more convenient for us to discuss business. By the way, Sophia called me yesterday and asked about our situation, and said she would come over to see our office once we're done with our work." I nodded and said, "Okay, come over and take a look, and by the way invite her to have a meal to thank her for her help before you arrange a time with Sophia, say next Monday, and we'll officially start working in the office on Monday, just in time to have her come and liven things up." "Alright, I'll contact Sophia now," Jason said. "These days, we have contacted Eric from Sunny Apparel several times to confirm the production progress of the first batch. Eric said the factory has started arranging production, everything is going smoothly, and they guarantee delivery within 15 days. We have also kept in touch with Daniel. Daniel said he has already notified several major sales channels and is waiting for our goods to arrive. Everything is developing in a good direction, and I am feeling more and more assured. But what I did not expect was that Ethan in the country, these days, has been like ants on a hot pot, restless. Since the last time I spoke with Peter on the phone and learned that I might be going abroad, Ethan has been uneasy all along. He called me several more times but couldn't reach me. There was no one to reply to WeChat messages either. He went to several places we used to frequent looking for me, but could not find me. Lily, seeing him distracted all day. I was unhappy, and one night I couldn't help saying, "What are you doing pestering her all day? Didn't you divorce her already? Now I am your wife." Ethan, frowning, impatiently said, "What do you know? I have something serious to deal with regarding her. She suddenly disappeared and went abroad. If she gets into trouble abroad, what should I do that would affect me?" Actually, Ethan himself knows that my involvement with him is not only because I worry about influencing him, but more because of the unease in his heart. We have been together for so many years. He always thought I was a woman who revolves around the family and had little ability. But now I suddenly disappeared and went abroad. He always felt that things were not that simple, as if a rock weighed on his chest. He also asked several friends we both know about my situation. Everyone either didn't know or didn't want to tell him. One day he couldn't help it anymore and remembered hearing before that for difficulties one can hire a private detective. So through a friend, he got in touch with a private detective who was said to be quite reliable. The next day, Ethan went to a cafe at the agreed time to meet the private detective. The detective looked to be in his 40s, dressed in a black suit, wearing sunglasses, and looked very mysterious. Ethan sat opposite him and, without beating around the bush, said, "I want you to help me find someone. Her name is Lee XX, and she is my ex-wife." The detective nodded, took out his notebook and pen, and said, "Tell me about her situation. When did she go missing? When was the last time anyone saw her? What habits does she have, and which places does she frequent?" Ethan. He told the detective everything he knew. "I probably found out about a week ago that she was missing. At the house she used to live in, her belongings were gone. I called her but couldn't reach her, and there was no reply on WeChat either. She didn't have any particular habits, except that she occasionally went out shopping with friends. Most of the time she stayed at home. By the way, a friend told me she might have gone abroad." The detective listened and took notes as he waited. And after Ethan finished speaking, he looked up and said, "You have provided too little information, especially since she may have gone abroad. The scope is too wide. And it will be troublesome to search, and the costs will be high." Ethan gritted his teeth and said, "Money is not a problem. As long as you can find her, I don't care how much it costs. I just need to know which country she's in abroad and what she's doing." The detective thought for a moment and said, "All right. I'll help you look into it, but you have to give me some time. Information from abroad is hard to verify, and I need to contact my friends overseas for help when I have any news." "I'll tell you at once," Ethan said hastily. "All right, no problem, I'll await you must find her as soon as possible." Leaving the cafe, Ethan felt a little more at ease. He thought that as long as the detective could find me and know my situation abroad, the rock in his heart would finally drop. What he didn't expect was that there was no news from the detective side for a long time. A week had passed, and they still hadn't found any trace of me. Ethan made several more calls to the detective, and each time the detective said they were still investigating and to wait a little longer. Ethan, the uneasy feeling in his heart grew stronger and stronger. He always felt that I must be doing something big abroad, while he knew nothing at all. He even began to regret secretly going through the divorce with me back then. And worse, marrying Lily. If I really achieve something abroad, everyone will know he is an ungrateful person. Then where will his face be? And at this moment, I had no idea that Ethan was looking for me. On Monday, Sophia came to our new office as promised. As soon as she walked in, she smiled and said, "Emily, you all arranged this office really well. It's warm, professional, and you can tell everyone is enthusiastic." I laughed and said, "It's all thanks to your help, otherwise, we wouldn't have gone so smoothly." Come, sit, I'll brew you a cup of tea. Sophia sat on the sofa, glanced around the office, and said, Emily, I hear you've already signed a contract with Sunshine Apparel, and the first batch of orders will arrive soon. I nodded and said, yeah, Eric said that delivery could be completed within 15 days, and by then Daniel over there will have already prepared the sales channels, and it can go on sale immediately, Sophie said happily. Great, I knew you could do it. By the way, how are you preparing for next month's clothing expo? I said, we've already registered, and the booths have been chosen. We're currently preparing samples, and once the first batch of orders arrives, we'll select some styles to use as samples for the trade fair, Sophia said. That's perfect. I'm also going to attend the trade fair next month. I'll stop by your booth then to cheer you on. We chatted for a while, then went to a nearby restaurant to have a meal. While eating, Sophia also talked to me a lot about interesting things in the overseas fashion industry and introduced me to several potential merchants who might have opportunities for collaboration. After dinner, Sophia had to go on with her things, so we split up. Back at the office, Jason told me he had already arranged the printing company, and we'll have our company brochure printed next week so we can use it at the trade fair. I nod in satisfaction and say, well done. Next, our focus should be on closely monitoring the production progress of the first batch of orders to ensure timely delivery. Also, you should keep a close eye on the brochure design to make sure our company's features and the advantages of our products are clearly reflected. All right, I got it, Mr. Lee, Jason said. In the following days, everything proceeded in an orderly manner. We contacted Sunny Apparel every day to learn about the production progress. The design draft for the brochure had also come out, and Jason and I looked at it together and thought there was no problem, so we had the printing company start printing. On Friday, Eric called us and said that the goods for the first batch of orders had almost been produced and that they could arrange shipment next Monday, so we should get ready to receive them. Jason and I were both very excited. Jason said, great, Mr. Lee, we'll receive the goods next Monday, and we can start selling right away. I smiled and said, yes, after waiting for so long, the goods are finally arriving. Contact Daniel and tell him that the shipment will be sent next Monday, and have his side prepare as well. Okay, I'll contact Daniel right now, Jason said. I hung up Daniel's phone, and Jason reported to me that Daniel had already arranged everything. As soon as the goods arrive, they can be delivered to all sales channels and go on sale. Watching everything progress smoothly filled me with anticipation. I know our business is about to reach its first small peak, and Ethan, over there, is still anxiously waiting for news from the private detective. He could never imagine that in a few days he will see my news on the financial news. And I wonder what expression he will have then. Next Monday early in the morning, Jason and I arrived at the office ahead of time, because today Sunshine Apparel will deliver the first batch of orders. We must prepare in advance, receive the goods, and then quickly send them to Daniel for sales arrangement. Around 10 o'clock in the morning, the delivery truck arrived. Jason and I hurried downstairs and followed the delivery driver to count the goods. Boxes of neatly packaged clothing were unloaded and stacked in the warehouse beside the office. We carefully checked the styles, colors, sizes, and quantities, and only after confirming there were no problems did we sign the delivery receipt. Seeing the warehouse full of goods, I felt extremely excited. This is our first batch of merchandise overseas, the starting point of our career, Jason also said with excitement. General Lee, great, the goods have all arrived. I'll contact Daniel's people right away and have them come to pick up the goods. Okay. You hurry up and contact them, I said, to have them come over as soon as possible, so we can deliver the goods early and get them on the shelves sooner. Jason immediately called Daniel's assistant, who said someone would come to load the goods in half an hour. We took advantage of this time to sort the goods again, grouping the clothing of different styles and sizes to make it easier for Daniel's team to count and transport. Half an hour later, Daniel's people arrived. They brought 2 trucks and quickly loaded the goods. As they were leaving, Daniel's assistant smiled and said, Mr. Lee, you can rest assured, after we get back, we'll immediately distribute the goods to the various sales channels, and they'll be on sale tomorrow. If anything comes up, I'll contact you promptly. I nod and say, all right, Thank you for your hard work. Let us know as soon as there is any news." Sending off Daniel, Jason, and I returned to the office, both breathing a sigh of relief. After a busy morning, we finally arranged the cargo matters properly. Jason poured 2 cups of warm water, handed me one, and said, "Director Lee, our first step is finally solid. From here on, we're just waiting for good news." I took a sip of water and said, "Yeah, we mustn't relax now. We still need to keep in touch with Sunshine Apparel to see if the subsequent cooperation can be expanded a bit more. Also, the samples for the sales event must be prepared quickly. From this batch of goods, we'll select a few that have good appearance and excellent quality to serve as samples for the exhibition." "Okay. I'll go pick some samples this afternoon, choose a few, and then them clearly, write all the sample information clearly, so it can be used when we participate in the trade fair," Jason said. In the afternoon, Jason began to pick samples in the warehouse. He was very careful, took out each style to look at it again and again, and even tried it on to ensure the style and size were all fine. I came over to help as well, and we picked more than 10 styles of women's fashion together, including dresses, shirts, jackets, etc. Each style is very distinctive, and I believe they will surely attract a lot of customers' attention at the expo. After selecting the samples, Jason the sample information into a table, including style name, color, size, price, fabric, etc. Everything at a glance. After I looked it over, I said with satisfaction, "Nice work. When we get to the trade show, if customers ask, we can explain clearly." In the following days, as we waited for feedback from the sales channels, we continued to prepare other trade show matters. The brochures were printed, and Jason put the brochures and samples together, ready to take them to the trade show. We also contacted a decoration company to help design and set up the booth, hoping to arrange it to be both attractive and distinctive to attract more customers' attention. On Wednesday, Daniel called us, his voice full of excitement. "General Lee, great news. Your products have only been on the shelves for 2 days and are selling exceptionally well. Several styles of dresses are already sold out, and each sales channel is urging for restocking." Hearing this news, Jason and I were both especially delighted. I hurriedly said, "Really, that's wonderful. Daniel, thank you so much. Without your sales channels, our goods wouldn't be selling so well." Daniel smiled and said, "President Lee, this is the result of our collaboration, mainly because your products are good in quality and have innovative styles. Customers like them. I think we must arrange replenishment quickly, or the customers will start to worry." I said, "Okay, I'll contact Eric from Sunshine Clothing right away and have them arrange production as soon as possible, so we can deliver the replenished goods early." After hanging up Daniel's phone, I immediately called Eric and told him that our goods are selling well and we need a replenishment. Eric, after listening, was very pleased and said, "President Lee, that's great. Your goods sell well. We're happy as well. Don't worry. I'll arrange for the factory to work overtime to produce, and guarantee to deliver the replenished goods to you within 10 days. Absolutely won't delay your sales." With Eric's assurance, I felt more at ease. After hanging up, I told Jason about the replenishment, and Jason, also happily, said, "That's great, President Lee. This way our business can continue to prosper. If this momentum continues, we'll soon establish a solid foothold in the local clothing market." I nod and say, "Yeah, as long as we keep up the hard work, we'll surely get better and better. By the way, our goods are selling so well that it might attract local media attention. You can contact a local financial newspaper to see if we can collaborate with them for an interview or a report to publicize our company and products. That would also boost our company's visibility." Jason said, "Great idea, President Lee. I'll contact them right away. There's a local newspaper called Financial Daily, and it has a big influence locally. If we can get a feature in this paper, it will definitely bring us a lot of exposure." Jason immediately contacted the editorial department of Financial Daily, explaining our company's situation, including our products, sales, and future development plans. After listening, the editors were very interested and said they wanted to do a special report on our company, and they arranged to come to our company for an interview on Friday morning. On Friday morning, As arranged, a reporter from Financial Daily arrived at our company. The reporter was a woman in her 30s. Very approachable and professional. She first visited our office and warehouse, then began interviewing me. She asked me a lot of questions, including why I chose to come abroad to do the clothing business, what advantages our company's products have, how the current sales are, and our future development plans, etc. I answered all of them carefully, and I also shared some of my feelings and experiences about starting a business abroad. The interview lasted more than an hour. At the end, the reporter smiled and said, "Mr. Lee, your entrepreneurial experience is truly admirable, and your company has great potential. We will definitely organize the content of this interview well and strive to have it published in the newspaper next week, so more people can know about your company and your products." I smiled and said, "Thank you so much. I appreciate it. If you need any additional information, feel free to contact me at any time." After sending the reporter away, I was filled with anticipation. If it could be published in the Financial Daily, it would be a very good publicity opportunity for our company, helping more people learn about our company and products, and it would definitely assist our future development. Indeed, by next Monday, the Finance Daily published a feature on our company. The headline read, "From Domestic to Overseas, MS, Lee leads the clothing company on a new journey," detailing our company, including our products, sales performance, entrepreneurial experience, and future development plans. The report also included several photos, pictures of our company office, goods in the warehouse, and one of me during the interview, where I am dressed in appropriate professional attire, smiling, looking confident and capable. Jason, holding a newspaper, ran into my office excitedly and said, "Boss Lee, fantastic, our story is out. Take a look, the photo is really good, and the article is written very well." I took the newspaper and looked at it carefully, seeing the praise and recognition for our company in the report, and my own confident self in the photo. I felt especially proud. This is not just a simple article. It is an affirmation of the efforts we have made during this period and an important milestone in the development of our business. I said, "Great, you hurry up and buy a few more copies of the newspaper. We'll give one to Sophia, Daniel, and Eric, so they'll be happy too. Also, scan the report and post it on our company's official WeChat account, so more people can see it." "Okay, I'll go handle that now," Jason said, taking the newspaper and leaving in high spirits. Very soon, Sophia, Daniel, and Eric all saw the report. Sophia called me, laughing, and said, "Emily, congratulations, your company made the newspaper. Amazing, I knew you could achieve great things." Daniel also called and said, "President Lee, I saw the report, it was really well written. Now many clients are calling me, asking about your company's situation and wanting to collaborate with you. Our business is getting better and better." Eric also sent a WeChat message saying that he is happy for us and will arrange replenishment production as soon as possible to ensure it won't delay our sales. Watching everyone's blessings and support, my heart feels warm. I know our career has already fallen into the right track, and there will be more opportunities and challenges waiting for us. And I also look forward to what will happen when Ethan sees this report and sees me in the financial news. I think he certainly won't expect that the woman he once looked down upon, who was centered around the family, has now gone abroad to forge her own world. Our company jumped into and our visibility shot up. Every day, clients proactively contact us about collaboration, and many people want to join our company. We've received a thick stack of resumes. Jason and I are every day. While, although, we feel especially inside, that feeling of being and is better than anything, the domestic Ethan, these days, has been anxious about not being able to find my news. The private detective side still has no progress. Every time I call, they say they are still investigating, but there is no substantive information. Ethan's unease grows stronger. He always feels that something happened to me abroad, but he just doesn't know what it is. This morning, Ethan came to the office as usual. As soon as he sat down at his desk, his secretary walked in with a cup of coffee and, by the way, set today's newspaper on his desk, saying, "President Lin, this is today's paper. Take a look." Ethan, he absent-mindedly said and casually picked up the newspaper to flip through it. He usually only reads the financial and entertainment sections, and today was no exception. He turned to the financial section and skimmed it half-heartedly, but as he kept reading, his gaze suddenly stopped. In the corner of the financial section, a reprinted report from the foreign publication Financial Daily had the headline, "From Domestic to International, MS. Lee leads a clothing company into a new journey." Seeing the words MS. Lee, Ethan's heart gave a jolt, and a poor premonition welled up inside him. He quickly leaned closer to the newspaper and read more carefully. Although the report did not mention my full name, the described entrepreneurial experience, and the note that previously engaged in the domestic clothing industry and paused the business for family reasons, now restarting abroad, these details were too much like me. Ethan's heart began to race as he continued reading. The report also mentioned the company's sales performance. The first batch of orders sold out within 2 days of going online, with multiple sales channels rushing to restock, and future plans. Will participate in next month's clothing exhibition to further expand the market scale. The most shocking thing was that the report also carried a photo. The woman in the photo was dressed in proper professional attire, with a smile on her face. Confident and capable, although she was separated by the newspaper, and I was thinner and more spirited than before, Ethan still recognized at a glance. That was me. Ethan's handheld newspaper dropped to the ground with a pat, and he froze, his eyes staring blankly at the newspaper on the floor, his mind completely empty. He could hardly believe that the woman who had once centered around his family, whom he had looked down upon, had actually started a company abroad. Had such a successful business, and even made it onto foreign financial news. He thought of secretly filing for divorce with me, thought of marrying Lily, and thought of the anxiety he felt during the period when he couldn't find me. Now it seems those anxieties and worries were all ridiculous. He always believed that if I left him, I would live a poor life. But he never expected that not only would I not live poorly, I would live even better than before, better than him, at this moment. Lily walked in with a fruit tray. She had come to the company to deliver fruit to Ethan. Seeing Ethan in a spellbound, distraught state, and the newspaper lying on the floor, she asked in puzzled concern, "Honey, what's wrong? Why did you drop the newspaper?" Ethan, he didn't pay attention to her. He bent down to pick up the newspaper from the ground, pointed at the photo of me, and asked in a trembling voice, Look at this. Who is this? Is this Lee XX?" Lily, she leaned over to take a look and recognized me as well. Her expression instantly became awkward. She said, "It seems to be her. How did she end up in international financial news? Did she start a company abroad?" Ethan didn't answer her question. His mind was a tangled mess, full of every little moment he and I shared. He remembered my former self in the business world, remembered how I gave up my career for him, remembered me washing clothes and cooking at home for him, remembered the quiet tears I shed after I discovered that he and Lily were involved. A strong sense of remorse surged up in his heart. He felt that he was a jerk, that he had pushed away such an excellent woman with his own hands, and had hurt her so deeply. He had always believed he was formidable and successful. But compared to me now, he felt himself small and ridiculous. He suddenly recalled David telling him that I had already divorced him and that he had married Lily. And I turned away with a cold smile. At that time he still thought I was pretending to be strong. Now he understands that I had already prepared to leave him and start over, while he, like a fool, was still anxious about not being able to find me. Ethan sat slumped in the chair, his hands cupping his head, his heart filled with remorse and pain. He knew he had completely lost me, the woman who once loved him wholeheartedly and gave him everything. And everything he has now is utterly insignificant compared to what I have achieved. Lily watches Ethan in pain, feeling both angry and anxious. She said, "It's just that she started a company. So what's the big deal? Do you have to react this way?" Ethan suddenly looked up, his icy gaze fixed on Lily, and said, "What do you know? If it weren't for you, if I hadn't been momentarily mistaken back then, how could I have lost her? How could I have become what I am now?" Lily was startled by Ethan's gaze. She didn't expect Ethan to suddenly lose his temper with her, and she said, "Grievance? How can you say that? It was you who wanted to marry me in the first place. Now something happened, and you blame me." Ethan stopped paying attention to her and picked up the phone, his fingers trembling as he wanted to call me, but he searched through his phone contacts only to find that he had already deleted my number. He wanted to message me on WeChat, but he also found that he had already blocked me. He wants to contact David, wants to find my contact information through David, but when he picked up the phone he put it down again. He doesn't know what he should say to me, whether he should say sorry or congratulate. He feels that whatever he says now would be so pale and powerless. At this moment, his phone rang. It was a private detective calling. Ethan took a deep breath and answered the call. The detective's voice came from the phone. "Ethan, we found news about Ms. Lee. She opened a clothing company abroad. Business is doing well, and she even appeared on local financial news. We also found that she will attend a local clothing fair next month to further expand the market." Ethan fell silent for a long moment, then slowly said, "I understand now, thank you. You don't need to investigate any further." Hanging up the phone, Ethan leaned back in his chair, closed his eyes, and 2 tears slid down from the corners of his eyes. He knew that between him and me, it was over for good. I had already started a new life, and I was doing well, while he could only spend the rest of his days in regret and pain. And at this moment, I am in the office discussing the details of next month's clothing fair with Jason. Jason, holding the floor plan of the fair, said to me, "General Lee, our booth has been confirmed, right beside the entrance, a very good location with high foot traffic. The decorating company has also produced the design drawings. Please take a look. If there are no issues, we will arrange the decoration as soon as possible." I took the floor plan and design drawings and looked at them carefully. The design is very distinctive, highlighting our company's brand image while also showcasing the products well. I nodded with satisfaction and said, "Very good. Follow this design. Please talk with the renovation company and have them start the installation as soon as possible, making sure they finish before the trade fair begins." "Okay, I'll go talk to the renovation company right away," Jason said. Watching Jason's busy figure and seeing the office staff working seriously, I felt a sense of achievement and happiness welling up inside me. I know my new life has just begun, and there are many wonderful things waiting for me in the future, and Ethan, and the hurt he caused me, are already in the past, never to affect me again. I believe that as long as I keep working hard, my company will develop more and more, and my life will become increasingly happier. Those who once looked down on me, those who hurt me, will eventually be left far behind by me, and can only look up at my back. Alright, that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. We'll keep updating with more exciting stories, and we look forward to seeing you next time.